what lessons do you think that in the future the international community will take from the situation that happened in Sri Lanka?
I think, one, human beings are above everything else. Nobody is above the law. Human rights and safety of the internally displaced person should be a priority. The law enforcement organs should operate and reestablish themselves first, and to make returns sustainable so that people do not move again in search of housing or in search of food or in search of jobs. There should be a sustainable return.
So you see Sri Lanka as sort of an example for these three, or is it something we need to learn?
I think it's something you still have to work on. When we see the return, we've seen it in the East. You have a very good example. That set an example for a lot of other countries. But let's see in the North if that can be the case, and some lessons can be learned from the East.
And then, do you have any evidence or any data or numbers to say that there are children being abducted by paramilitary groups from these camps?
We were not able to find evidence of that, but we cannot deny it either. So we still have to search, and we still have to put the government on notice that there could be something like that happening, and they have to find out.
This is with regard to children?
With regard to children or anybody else who's being taken from the camps, yeah.
So then there's also discrepancies that left the conflict zone and the number of persons within the IDP camps. So can you give reasons for that? Is that simply logistics, like the counting of people that has gone off base, or?
I think at some point, that's why the number of people is people who counted who came to the camps. Now, we also, if there are people held in other facilities, the government should make these facilities known, and they should inform of the number of people who are taken to these facilities if they are not in the camps.
So you think there's a shortfall there where people are being...
No, I don't have evidence to suggest that. And I see the, off the record, the international media was there. I think, the Human Rights Council issue was over. Now you have a lot of agencies are trying to, a lot of quarters are trying to come up with other equations here. And I think unless there is a registration, we cannot have a final figure. This is the case in many other emergencies that we have been to. Unless the registration is complete, we cannot tell how many people are there, for sure.
So is your office assisting in that registration?
We're assisting in that registration, and we want the government to collaborate with us closely so that we can finish the registration once and for all.
So what symptoms, if any, are popping up, not just in the north, but maybe even overall over the island?
Of course, local populations suffer because of military operations, because of access to market, access to farmland, lack of access to market, lack of access to farm areas, hindrance in movement of goods from one place to another, movement of people. You have all of these high security zones in Jaffna, for example. You have the A9 closed. You have no sustainable air traffic between Jaffna and Colombo, and that affects lives, people, and market as well. And the fact that Sri Lanka was at war, that did impact your tourism and impact the level of investment you had during the last 4 or 5 years.
So in terms of society, though, people's views, maybe how they interact with each other, if you can just tell me what you think on that.
There will be a need to work on healing the wounds in reconciliation, devolution of power, and equal representation. You know, democratic process have to be extended to the rest of the island.
And also, I think about a week ago, the Australian Foreign Minister had said that he's concerned a lot of Sri Lankan, because of the Sri Lankan conflict, there would be a lot of people seeking refuge in Australia. So what is your view on that?
Well, the war is over now, so we expect people to remain in their places of origin unless they are persecuted or they are in fear of persecution.
And what fate can those Tamils overseas who have not been granted refugee status by the UNHCR expect now that the conflict is over?
That has to be assessed on an area-by-area basis. It depends on their areas of origin, and also depends on their history here. What made them flee in the first place?
Also, something a bit beyond our shows is there are 55 Sri Lankans in Aceh that have fled, and they were supposedly on their way to Australia, but their boat had sunk, so now they're in Aceh, and they have asked to meet with the UNHCR. So if you can give me any info on that.
I'm afraid that will not be my area of competence. Our office in Indonesia, in coordination with our office in Australia, will handle that. So for me here, they're far away from me. I already have a lot.
Too much to do. Is there anything you'd like to add in closing?
Well, in closing, I would say we should have full support of the government to allow us to assist in stabilizing the conditions in the camps. We should have worked together in a speedy manner and to seize the momentum also of the general support of the international community to make sure that resettlement happens in an orderly and sustainable manner to areas of origin, and empty the camps of IDPs as soon as possible, so there is no displacement pockets left in the country.
Okay.
Yeah.